wrapping this up.
And welcome once again to another exciting hour of All-Star Wrestling, where you see all your favorite stars from the World Wrestling Alliance right here. We've got a super hour on top for you. Right at the beginning of the program, we had a chance to see the Simpson Brothers. We'll be watching them later on this hour in action. Should be real good. Another newcomer to the World Wrestling Alliance, Steve Cox, is with us. We'll be watching him later this hour. We'll be seeing a tag team of Bulldog Bob Brown and Masachono, a newly formed tag team, and your main event of the hour for the World Heavyweight title when the World Champion Mike George defends against Gentleman Chris Adams. That's your main event later this hour, so whatever you do, call your friends on the phone, tell them to sit down in front of their television sets. It's going to be a tremendous hour, and it all gets underway right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, your opening event of the hour, one fall with a 10-minute television time limit. Introducing first, Columbia, Missouri, 234 pounds, Russell Sapp, Esquire. And introducing his opponent, from the University of Tulsa in Tulsa, Oklahoma, 237 pounds, please welcome Steve Cox. One fall with a 10-minute time limit.
After the match.
All right, one fall, 10-minute time limit. Bob Geigel here with me. Welcome, Bob. And I know you've got some great interest in this match. A newcomer,
That's
Steve
right,
Cox.
College athlete out of the University of Tulsa. Big, impressive-looking kid. Football player, amateur wrestler. Got his hands full. He's got Russell Sapp, who's really been making strides forward.
Well, you know, Steve Cox was an All-American football player at the University of Tulsa, Bob. And if that's not credentials enough, he was trained in the sport of professional wrestling by none other than Bill Watts.
That's right. Bill Watts had a lot of background from the University of Oklahoma. And, oh, look at that move.
Very
that was
nice
an impressive
move.
Yes.
Good move by Steve Cox. Once again, Bob, congratulations to you for bringing another exceptional athlete to the World Wrestling Alliance.
Well, I'm happy to be able to bring him.
Well, I'm glad you're bringing him because I just enjoy seeing him out here every week. And this is a tremendous athlete. I think we're watching the future of professional wrestling right here when we watch athletes like Steve Cox.
A lot of new young wrestlers in the wrestling profession right now. Simpson Brothers, you're going to see pretty soon.
Well, we had a little opportunity to see him right at the very beginning of the show. And later on this hour, we'll be watching him in a match against John Tatum and Jack Victory. And that should be a tremendous match. And I want to remind the fans at home, Bob, our main event this hour, the World Heavyweight title match between Gentleman Chris Adams and Mike George. Right now, Russell Sapp reverting to a little bit of a shortcut here and there, trying to get back in this match, but Steve Cox just the one step ahead of Russell Sapp.
I think Russell might be a little lighter than Steve Cox. I think Cox, what's he weigh, 235?
Yeah, right about there, Bob. And you can see there's not an ounce of fat on him. He's a finely conditioned man.
He looks like he's been in the gymnasium a few times. He's got good mud definition.
Yes, he definitely found his way to the gym. Well, like we said before, he was an All-American at the University of Tulsa. And I had an opportunity to see Tulsa. He was a tremendous football player and now a tremendous wrestler, trying to work his way up in the ranks of the World Wrestling Alliance. And he's got a very promising future. Good high backdrop. Russell Sapp down hard, and this is a very hard mat, too. Good elbow, and if you notice, he didn't get a lot of height, but he came down very quickly, which didn't give Russell Sapp any opportunity to try to move out of the way.
Now, Steve Cox has got the match under control right now. I think Russell Sapp has got to start getting with it, or he's going to find himself so far behind he won't be able to catch up.
Well, Russell Sapp's managed to lose more matches than he's won, but he's been competitive, and he's no pushover by any means. And once again, Steve Cox showing exceptional quickness, moving out of the way. Steve Cox up high. Beautiful monkey flip, bringing Sab down. Follows with a nice high drop kick by Steve Cox. And again, a second drop kick. And Steve Cox looks like he's got the match well under control. Look at this, a Russian leg sweep, and well executed at that. Count of 1, 2, and 3, that's it. Beautiful maneuver by Steve Cox. The winner of your first event, Steve Cox. All right, fans, there you have it. Steve Cox, a very impressive debut in the World Wrestling Alliance, Bob Geigel. And
I was impressed, Jay. The guy looked real good. He was aggressive. He was offensive minded. Looks like he's got a bright future.
Well, he came in with a game plan. He really took the offensive warfare to Russell Sapp, and he came out of this with a win. Don't go away, fans. We'll be right back after this when we see the new tag team of Bulldog Bob Brown and Masachono. Fans, right now I've got an opportunity to talk to World Wrestling Alliance promoter Bob Geigel, and from what I understand, promoter Geigel has a very special announcement concerning a little incident between World Class and the World Wrestling Alliance. As many of the fans know, on January 23rd, the World Wrestling Alliance hosted a tremendous one-night tournament to crown the World Heavyweight Champion. And of course, as we all know, Mike George emerged as the World Heavyweight Champion. Now, shortly after winning the world title, Mike George challenged any other so-called world title claimant. And to date, no one has met Mike George's challenge. However, from what I understand, there is an organization who has accepted the challenge, Bob.
Well, I was happy to see Mike George win the world title because, in my opinion, Mike George is one of the great athletes in the United States and the world today. At this time, I'd like to make an announcement that I have just completed a deal or an agreement with World Class Wrestling, where world-class wrestlers will be appearing in all-star wrestling all over the Midwest. By that I mean wrestlers like Kerry and Kevin Von Erich, the Freebirds, the fabulous Freebirds, managed by Michael Hayes, Terry Gordy and Michael Hayes and Buddy Roberts. Also, what's that other fine young boy's name?
Oh, they have a tremendous crew of wrestlers: Terry Taylor, Chris Adams, the Simpson Brothers, and of course, later this hour we'll be seeing Chris Adams when he challenges Mike George for the World Heavyweight title.
I'm real happy about that. I think it'll make us one of the strong wrestling organizations in the world today. The combination of the two, some of the finest wrestlers, and I think it'll be a big plus for you wrestling fans. You're going to see some of the great wrestlers in the world.
Well, of course, as we mentioned before, Mike George being the World Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Champion, and of course a new world-class World Heavyweight Champion in the form of Iceman King Parsons. Should make some interesting matches.
That's right, it sure should. If we could ever make that match, Iceman King Parsons against World Wrestling Alliance Champion Mike George, I'd like to referee that match, Jay, because that'd be a match to see. Iceman King Parsons is a great athlete, but naturally I don't feel he's in the same league as Mike George.
That's right. Well, we'll find out about that. The challenges have flown back and forth between World Class and World Wrestling Alliance. And in the weeks to come, we'll be seeing all the top stars from the World Wrestling Alliance and World Class. The Simpson Brothers, the Von Erich Brothers, the Freebirds, Wild Bill Irwin, Michael Hayes, Black Bart, all your favorite stars and not so favorite stars from the World Class and the World Wrestling Alliance to be seen right here on All Star Wrestling. So stay tuned for further details on that. And as we mentioned, your main event this hour, Chris Adams challenges Mike George for the World Wrestling Alliance world title. We'll be right back after this. Your second event of the evening, one fall with the 15-minute tag team event. Introducing first, from Winnipeg, Canada, at 252 pounds, Bulldog Bob Brown. His partner, from Japan at 231 pounds, the current television champion, Masa Chono. And their opponents, 242 pounds, Long Island, New York, Vinny Valentino. His partner, Lansing, Kansas, 297 pounds, Big Steve Ray. One fall with the 15-minute time limit. All right, Bob, the formation of a new team here. Bulldog Bob Brown and Masa Chono.
Yeah, it's a good team.
Yeah.
Should be a good, aggressive match. Got four people in there with offense on their mind. Chono doesn't think about defense. It's offense all the way with him. And Vinny Valentino is a tremendous wrestler and has about as much wrestling knowledge as anybody in the country.
Sure does. We're looking at four great wrestlers here. And you know something? We're looking at four champions, Bob.
That's right.
Bulldog Bob Brown. Look at this. Great moves here. Some beautiful series of sit-outs. Vinny with the loose ride. Masa Chono unable to get a ride away from a beautiful loose ride on the part of Vinny Valentino.
And Steve Ray in the corner. Hey, he's a big, powerful, young athlete. He's got a great future in professional wrestling. No limit to how far he can go.
Well, we're looking here, like I said, at four champions. Bulldog Bob Brown's former Central States champion more times than anybody else. His partner, Masa Chono, the current television champion. In Vinny Valentino, we have a former television champion. In Steve Ray, we have a tag team champion. So we're looking at four men who know how to give their best and get the best results. Right now, Masa Chono with the headlock. Chono up hard, a tackle on Vinny Valentino. Vinny, beautiful leapfrog, a second leapfrog. Big hip toss. Nice move on the part of Vinny Valentino. Masa Chono a little bit upset here. And Valentino, and of course, Valentino wants nothing more than a shot at Masa Chono. Whether it be in a singles or tag team match, he'll take it anytime he can get it. Beautiful move.
Valentino really he's with it tonight, isn't he?
And Vinny is fired up. Like we said, Bob, anytime he can get his hands on Masa Chono, he'll take it, be it in a singles or tag team event. Nothing more Vinny Valentino would like than a shot at that Central States television title.
That's right. He's been rated tops for a long, long time. I can't say he's been held down, but he just hasn't been in the right place at the right time. And given the right push, Vinny Valentino can go a long, long way in wrestling.
Well, Vinny Valentino proved that he can win the big matches. Last July, I remember he won the television tournament in Kansas City.
That's right. He's a winner.
Talk about fired up. I see Steve Ray looks a little bit fired up right now. And here's another one. Any chance Steve Ray gets to get his hands on Bulldog Bob Brown, he won't turn the opportunity down. Bob, of course, congratulations once again on your big announcement. The World Wrestling Alliance and World Class Wrestling will begin, if you will, competing with and against each other.
It's going to make some tremendous competition between World Wrestling Alliance wrestlers and World Class wrestlers.
Of course, the opportunity of seeing, say, a Terry Taylor against a Vinny Valentino, or a Steve Ray against a Black Bart, or a Bulldog Bob Brown against a Michael Hayes, and of course, let's not mention world champions Iceman King Parsons against Mike George. Matches like that, they're just dream matches.
And they're coming, they're close.
Later this hour, as we mentioned before, Chris Adams here from the World Class to challenge Mike George. A little bit of supremacy challenge here. Who's better, the World Class or World Wrestling Alliance? We'll find out later this hour when Chris Adams meets Mike George.
I wonder just how strong that Big Steve Ray is. You think if he got a bear hug on somebody that he could do him in?
Well, Bulldog Bob Brown just found out a little bit about the strength of Steve Ray. Maybe more than he cared to. Bob Brown trying to quiet the crowd. And we've got a good crowd here tonight, and they seem awfully fired up. I notice we've got fans from all over, of course. We've got the Twins and Bruce Grummert from Nebraska. I see fans from all over here tonight. Any chance you get to see matches like this and Chris Adams against Mike George, the fans come from all over. Bulldog Bob Brown has the chore of Steve Ray ahead of him in the ring, and he better pay attention to Steve Ray. The fans are outside of the ring, and Vinny Valentino's outside, but Steve Ray is in the ring. Five minutes elapsed, 10 minutes remain.
Brown's taking advantage of everything, and he needs to with this big, powerful Steve Ray.
He needs every advantage he can get, and he knows every advantage he needs to take advantage of. There's not an inch in this ring that Bob Brown doesn't know very well. Double clothesline, and Bob Brown out before the 5 count. That's just good tag team work.
That's right. They doubled up on Steve Ray, which they need to. He's a big, strong kid. A one-on-one, I'll tell you, he's tough to handle.
Well, it's double teaming, but it's legal because the man who makes the tag has a 5 count to get outside the ring. And Bob Brown was out within that 5 count.
I wouldn't want to make that big Steve Ray mad, because he's, listen, I don't think he knows what he can do. I think he's stronger than he realizes.
Steve Ray hoisting Masachono up and taking him outside of the ring. And Masachono getting a little sample of the awesome power of Big Steve Ray.
Chono's background is fabulous too, Jay.
Tremendous background.
That's right. He had all the schooling in Japan, went to a lot of judo, wrestling, was trained in judo, catch as catch can wrestling, freestyle wrestling, and he's even Greek-Roman wrestling background.
Well, if there was any doubt about his background or his abilities, if you will, he came in here and he garnered the Central States television title almost immediately and went on to become the world champion for a brief period of time. Certainly not two small feats by any means.
That's right. He's wrestled all over the world, too. When he came to All-Star Wrestling, he'd wrestled in Germany for 4 months before that.
He sure did. And I understand before completing his tour of Germany, he competed in a 62-day tournament. Again, the double teaming continues. Steve Ray not giving up, trying to fight back. But Masachono quick with a rake to the eyes, followed up by a judo chop. Steve Ray trying to stay alive and get to the corner. He needs to make that tag with Vinny Valentino right now.
That's right. Steve needs to get that Vinny in there. They've went 2-on-1 on him for quite a little bit now.
A fresh Vinny Valentino could make a tremendous impact on this match at this point in time.
I think so, too.
Again, another legal tag, and it's Bob Brown in the ring. And Chono needs to get out before that 5 count.
Well, they got
another tag. Again, that's got to be the 5th or 6th tag we've seen here tonight. All legal tags, I might point out. And the team of Brown and Chono proving to be a pretty good tag team. And he makes the tag, and in comes Vinny Valentino.
He's a fired-up wrestler now.
He's got the one.
Oh, look at that drop
boy,
kick way up in the air. Big slam, a big slam.
Beautiful slam. And again, Chono with the slam.
Look at that drop kick.
Catches Brown with a drop kick.
Another big
drop kick. Beautiful. And Vinny Valentino is looking almighty fine tonight. And there goes Vinny Valentino to the top rope. And we know what that is, Bob Brown. That's his favorite maneuver. Here he comes. He's got him. Hold on. Count of 1, 2. Bob Brown in for the save. I think that was the end of the match right there. And Steve Ray in after Bob Brown.
All four wrestlers in the ring. Boy, this is really getting wild, Jay.
We're seeing some tremendous competition tonight.
Heck of an impact there. They really smashed, didn't
A
they?
meeting of the minds, if you will. What's this? A drop kick and a power slam. Oh no. Wait a minute. And Vinny Valentino, wait a minute. Bulldog Bob Brown appeared to pull some kind of object from his tights, caught Vinny Valentino in the throat. Of course, Vinny had a full Boston Crab on Masachono, count of 3. Time of the match, 9 minutes, 58 seconds. Your winner, the team of Masachono and Bulldog Bob Brown. All right, fans, there you have it. A disputed outcome, no doubt. But nevertheless, your winners, Bob Brown and Masachono. We'll be right back with a look at Steve and Sean Simpson, the Simpson Brothers. Ben, just a few minutes ago, we heard the announcement from promoter Bob Geigel that the World Class Wrestling Association and the World Wrestling Alliance will begin working together to establish not only supremacy of the two organizations, but also provide some of the very finest in wrestling for the fans. Now, what we're going to do right here, we're going to take a look at a little film clip from the Simpson Brothers, top young tag team from South Africa. That's Steve and Sean Simpson, and they are the Wild West Tag Team Champions for World Class Wrestling. Let's take a look at them right now when they meet John Tatum and Jack Victory. Wrestling fans, I've got a rare opportunity right now to be joined by two tremendous names in the sport of wrestling at opposite ends of the spectrum. First, we have the former World Heavyweight Champion Pat O'Connor joining us. And on my left, possibly a future world champion in the form of Steve Cox. Pat, right now, of course, you've been assigned the responsibility of officiating our main event this hour when Mike George defends a world title against Chris Adams. Now, I know you weren't here, but they met a few weeks ago in a match that was not televised, and it turned to be an awfully ugly match.
Jay, I've heard a lot of reports about this match from various responsible figures in wrestling, and I'm very, very aware that there's a bad feeling with these two wrestlers, but I'm going to call the shots exactly as I see them. And I'm the only one that is the judge of this match. Nobody else.
All right, very good. Of course, Pat, you officiated in the World Title Tournament in January. And as the fans remembered, you did a fine job and justice was served.
Well, thank you very much. And might I add, I'm looking at future talent on the wrestling horizon. I might say that young Steve here, over here, has got a real bright future in wrestling.
He sure does. Thank you, Pat, and good luck in your match. You got a tremendous responsibility upcoming. Thank you, Pat. Now, right now, Steve Cox, former star and Rookie of the Year, competitor for the Universal Wrestling Federation. Now you're in another ballgame, the World Wrestling Alliance.
I love it. I love it. I love being here. The great thing about it is the fact that I'm here in the Midwest, baby. That's where I come to do the job because they got some of the greatest people here, some of the toughest talents right here. I'm coming up from the Sooner State, but you used to number ones up here. How about those Jayhawkers? Used to people winning. I'm a winner. I'm from the Sooner State. I'm coming up here to do my job.
Well, now, Steve, when you talk about being a winner for the fans at home, you were an All-American at the University of Tulsa. Tremendous background in football and wrestling, and from what I understand, you were trained in the sport of professional wrestling by Bill Watts.
Yes, I was. As a matter of fact, there's a good heritage right there. I got a terrific athletic background, but now I'm coming in on a one-on-one sport, what I like best. I was brung in by Bill Watts, but I was trained by Steve Dr. Death Williams, you all well know. And I tell you what, I'm going to carry on that tradition because I was trained to wrestle tough and to be a winner, and that's what it's all about.
All right, Steve, we had an opportunity to see you earlier, and obviously the fans really took to you and you showed some tremendous athletic ability in your match earlier this hour.
I'll tell you what, that's step number one. As I was coming into Kansas City, you see all those tall buildings. Right now, I'm down in the lobby, baby, but I took that first step. I pushed the button. I'm taking the elevator to the top. I want the penthouse level.
All right, Steve, congratulations, and good luck in the future in the World Wrestling Alliance. Fans, newcomer in the World Wrestling Alliance, Steve Cox. Welcome back, wrestling fans. This is your main event this hour on World Wrestling Alliance and All-Star Wrestling. It proves to be a tremendous match when Chris Adams meets Mike George for the World Heavyweight title. Let's get the ring introductions underway right now. Ladies and gentlemen, this match, one fall with a 1 hour time limit for the WWA World Heavyweight title. Introducing first, the challenger. From England, weighing in at 237 pounds, gentleman Chris Adams. Introducing from St. Joseph, Missouri, 273.5 pounds, the World Heavyweight Champion, Mike George. Your special referee for this event, former World Champion, Pat O'Connor. One fall, 60 minutes. All right, fans, this match underway right away. And a tremendous match. Right now we see Chris Adams really taking the action to Mike George. These two men met a couple weeks ago in Kansas City in a match that unfortunately was not televised. The result of this match was that Chris Adams suffered a broken nose, 12 stitches in his nose, 2 black eyes, 8 loose teeth, 3 of them had to be capped. And I think that explains why Chris Adams is taking a fight to Mike George right off the bat.
Boy, he's really possessed. He's going after Mike. Mike is trying to turn it around.
After what happened to Chris Adams, wouldn't you be?
I sure would.
I think Mike George might possibly be facing the toughest test he's had yet.
Chris Adams is a world wrestler. He's wrestled all over the world. The bad things that happened to Chris Adams in that match was not the cut. It was not even a broken bone. It was the smashed teeth. You know, about 12 teeth got knocked loose, and he has to get them capped.
It's unfortunate, but it is part of the hazards you risk when you step into this ring, and it's certainly against someone the size and caliber of Mike George.
Mike's a big, powerful man. He's qualified to be world champion.
Well, he certainly is. He, of course, he went through such men as Kareem Muhammad and Dick Slater in January 23rd to become world heavyweight champion. Of course, since that time, he's defended the title against such notables as Bulldog Bob Brown, Masa Chono, Dave Peterson, and at this point, Chris Adams.
That's right. Mike spends a lot of time in the gymnasium wrestling, lifting weights. He's in tremendous condition. He runs a lot. And Michael cut any corner necessary to hold on to the title, too.
Well, of course, a lot of the fans have asked me, and I know they spoke to you, Bob, about the sudden change that they see in Mike George. He simply explains it as he's world champion, and he intends to stay world champion.
Well, you know, when you think about the money that the title means to him, it kind of explains why he does some of the things he does.
Well, it's a very prestigious title, and now, of course, the pressure on him even more with the announcement of World Class and World Wrestling Alliance promoting together. And now, as we see right here, he's going to have to wrestle the very best from both of these tremendous organizations.
Mike absorbed 2 tough forearms to the side of the face, and then he pulled the guy down with a hair.
Well, of course, Mike's going to do what he has to hold on to that world title. And, you know, he won the world title and really proved his worth as a professional athlete and a professional wrestler. But, you know, he lost it in a very short period of time to Masa Chono. And I think that taught him that it's one thing to train and shoot for one goal and become world champion, but it's a much tougher battle to hold on to title when you face nightly challenges?
Well, this is the first in the series of World Championship matches, 3 in a row. And Mike, it's a tough thing for a world champion to defend 3 consecutive days.
Well, of course, as our fans at home have heard us talk over the recent weeks about the World Championship Series, you're seeing action today from part 1 of the World Championship Series. And of course, the winner of this match will go on to defend a world title in future days, which will not be televised. But right now, Mike George has to get by this match and this challenger, or he no longer will be world champion.
Yeah, he's got that bar arm, and he's got it bent back quite a ways.
Of course, you know, Bob, I think Mike George can concentrate on any part of the body and work it to the point of making the average wrestler give up. Be it the arm, the leg, the head. He has that knowledge and that ability.
He's got that bar arm. He's got it bent pretty well. Chris Adams suffering a little bit, but Chris Adams is a tough wrestler. He's a worldly wrestler and
well-schooled wrestler. Of course, you know, you could talk about the toughness of professional wrestlers, and obviously it is the toughest sport in the world today. There are no timeouts. There's no shoulder pads. We're looking at a man wrestle tonight for the world title. And this man has a broken hand he suffered from Terry Taylor. He's wrestling with a broken nose. He's wrestling with 2 black eyes and chipped teeth. And he's in here competing for the world title with no protection whatsoever.
that's right. Right now, Mike has got that hammer lock. He's trying to get a chicken wing on it. He's pulling that hammer lock up the back. Hammer lock is a devastating hold. You know,
Sure it is. You know, in amateur wrestling, you're only allowed to bend it to a certain point. But here in professional wrestling, there's no restrictions at all. Adams down with the elbow. George able to move partially out of the way on that one. Chris Adams with the opportunity of a lifetime here. And talking about world class and World Wrestling Alliance, of course, Bob, Chris Adams is a former world class world heavyweight champion.
Oh, he's got a great background. He's from England. He knows about everything there is to know about wrestling. Mike has got a slight weight advantage on him. I imagine 20 pounds, would you say?
A good 20 pounds. Mike weighing in at about 273 these days. Adams about 245.
Mike's got a little advantage right at this time, and he's trying to take advantage of it.
Well, Mike's wrestling a smart game right now. He's working on the arm, and of course, in doing so, you notice he has the hand there, and the hand's heavily taped. There's a broken finger on that hand. And if you think a broken finger's not painful, guess again. 5 minutes. 5 minutes expired.
Chris Adams resorted to a fist. He's hungry. He's trying to get this title.
Well, he wants a title in a bad way, but he also wants a piece of Mike George also. Right now, Adams beginning to throw those punches into Mike George's head, and that's a bare fist. Not necessarily legal, but when you suffer a broken nose and chipped teeth, you do what you have to when you fight back. And Chris Adams has got the sleeper on Mike George. Softened him up with some hard punches to the forehead, and I don't think Mike George was expecting a sleeper this early in the match.
Referee Pat O'Connor's around there making sure it's not a chokehold.
Mike George trying to work his way to the ropes right now, inching closer and closer. Great shot by the camera crew as Mike George tries to get to the ropes, and I believe he's got it. Mike George has found his way to the corner while referee Pat O'Connor calls for the break. And of course, Chris Adams probably only a matter of 15 seconds away from having Mike George in Sleepville.
He's trying to take advantage of the fact that he had Mike George almost out.
Well, sure.
Kicks to the face.
And now he's really cutting off the oxygen supply to the brain here.
Chris Adams has turned the tide. He's back in command of the match now.
He sure is. Of course, we caught Mike George off guard with the sleeper, and now he's really punishing Mike George. And Mike George is groggy. Mike George is dazed and staggered at this point.
Chris better stay right on top of the situation. He's got him going a little bit right now.
Mike's got some big, powerful legs, but right now they're just a little bit wobbly, Bob Geigel. And Chris Adams again has a sleeper applied for the second time tonight. And Mike George is really in trouble at this point, Bob. Again, Mike George fading. Chris Adams had it. Mike is probably within about 12 inches from those ring ropes. And I don't know if he has the strength to get there, but he's going to need it or he's going to be out of this very shortly. Mike using what appeared to be a pull of the trunks here to break free of the hold. Mike George is really suffering right now, Bob.
Well, Chris Adams has got an advantage right now. He's on top. If he just, he's got to take advantage of being on top.
And it's a big high backdrop, and Mike George is really in trouble at this point, lying flat on his back and a big knee across the upper part of the chest. Count of 2. Bob, we've seen some tremendous action this hour. We've had our first look at Steve Cox. We've had our first opportunity to see the Simpson Brothers in action. We've seen the formation of a new tag team in Bulldog, Bob Brown, and Chono. And what a match that would be against the Simpson Brothers.
Oh, it'd be tremendous.
And right now we're seeing a World Heavyweight title between the WWA World Champion and a WWC Challenger. 10 minutes. 10 minutes expired.
This has been a grueling battle for 10 minutes. And
It
it'll
sure
take
has.
its toll.
It sure has. Tremendous match. And right now, Mike George fighting back, and he's pounding away on Chris Adams. We're seeing two men give everything they've got right here. Mike George about to shoot Chris Adams across the ring, and he does, and George in hard. But Chris Adams out of the way, and the only thing there for Mike George was a turnbuckle. And again, and Bob, we saw a little bit of wrestling at first, but right now they're just going at it. They're throwing punches. They're doing anything they can. They genuinely don't like each other.
That's right. Mike saw an opportunity to get Chris Adams out of the ring, took advantage of it. Chris Adams is out on the floor.
Chris
There
Adams
goes
is
Mike
out.
out after him.
This gives Mike a little bit of a breather right here. Watch out. Watch out. Wait a minute. And it's Chris Adams turning the tide. And
Oh,
Mike George is down hard. Mike George hit that ring post full shot with his head.
Referee Pat O'Connor's counting.
And it's Chris Adams firing away at the head of Mike George. Wait a minute, Mike George has been opened up. When Mike George hit that steel ring post, he was lacerated. And a second time, Mike George had just crashed, second time, hard into that steel ring post. And right now, Chris Adams spinning out a little more revenge on Mike George as Mike George's head goes hard into the protective railing here. And the fans are getting behind Chris Adams now. I think they sense a possible change right here.
Chris Adams is hungry, and he's really taking advantage right now.
Chris Adams in excellent position to win the world title right here. And it's Mike George all but out. He's dazed, he's staggered, and he's all but out on his feet right here. And if Mike George has anything left, he's going to have to call on it here to come back. A super kick that caught Mike George in his stomach, and Mike George is really hurting at this point. Beautiful clothesline by Chris
clothesline.
Adams.
We might see a title change hands right
Look
here,
at
Jay.
this. Chris Adams setting him up for the super kick. He's got it. Wait a minute.
Referee Pat O'Connor out on the floor.
Chris Adams partially delivering a super kick. A second one. Mike George is down. It's Chris Adams for the cover. Count of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bob, we could have had a new world champion right here.
That's right.
Pat O'Connor caught by Mike George, and he's out. What a match we're seeing here. Chris Adams off. Wait a minute, Mike George has just jumped Chris Adams over the top rope.
That's right. Threw him right over the top rope.
Of course, that's an automatic disqualification right there. But I'm not sure if Pat O'Connor had an opportunity to see it. Dave Peterson is over there assisting Pat O'Connor. Mike George brings Chris Adams in for a suplex, but it's Chris Adams on top. Count of 1, 2, 3, but wait a minute. Wait a minute,
that was Dave Peterson. That was Dave Peterson.
Dave Peterson who made the count. Dave Peterson's not a licensed referee.
He awarded the belt to Chris Adams.
Dave Peterson has just counted Mike George out and awarded the world title to Chris Adams.
Wait a minute, referee Pat O'Connor.
Wait a minute, Pat O'Connor asking for the world title belt.
Referee Pat O'Connor.
Referee has disqualified Mike George. The referee has disqualified Mike George for throwing Chris Adams over the top rope. Your winner and still world champion, Mike George. Chris Adams is the winner by disqualification. However, the world title cannot change hands on disqualification. Mike George is still your world champion.
Referee Pat O'Connor.
Fans, a tremendous match. Be here next week when we have another opportunity. We'll see Joe Lightfoot, Curtis Hughes, Dave Peterson, Rufus R. Jones, Ken Timms.